Oh, I like the way that keeps on going. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our time of gathering and worship this morning. My name is Michael Richards, and I'll be leading our time together this morning. I would encourage you at this time to take a moment and silence your electronic devices. As a friend of mine once said, make sure you silence everything from the Elizabethan period onwards. And let us settle into our sacred space. Before we begin our worship time, I invite the heads of the committees or groups to come forward to the microphone over here to my left and share the news with us.
Good morning, I'm Ann Packham on behalf of the board. We do have our quarterly meeting today. It's announced in the program as starting at noon, but really we start about 10 minutes-ish after the end of the service. We'll let the newcomers who are here for UU 101 go to the library. We are going to have some extra snacks. So grab your cup of coffee, get your snacks, and sit down so we can start the meeting quickly. I don't expect it to last more than maybe 45 minutes tops. And then on behalf of the women's group, I think some of you saw the email, Roberta and I are stepping down as chairs of the women's group. We just can't do it anymore, so we're looking for friendly, fresh faces, and basically the women's group can be whatever you want it to be. So it doesn't have to meet on the last Friday of the month, it can be some other day, but if you're interested in taking that on, see me after and I'll let you know how to do it.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Judith. For the visitors here this morning, I am the Director of Religious Education. We, during the quarterly meeting for the children, we will be in the back watching a movie and snacking on pizza. So you know about that. And then immediately following that, I have an orientation session for the RE team that is signed up for today's orientation session. So if you didn't know, check your email.
Hi, I'm Chloe McElroy. I'm representing the Millennial Group. This past Thursday. This past Thursday was the Millennial Group, and it was attended by me and my dog, and that was all. But that's okay, because the space was open for anybody that wanted to come, and we're just trying to get restarted. I know a lot of people have busy lives. So the next Millennial Group is going to be on September 29th. We are going to Pups Pub Orlando. It's a new dog bar that's open downtown. It is open to anyone who's 21 and up. And you feel like a millennial, we welcome Gen Xers as well. So September 29th, 7 o'clock, Pups Pub Orlando. If you need any more information, come find me.
Hi, Lori Streel Hospitality. Two things. One is I'm still looking for I'm giving the opportunity for a few volunteers. I'm a little short next week, and then there's some next month. So for doing the coffee and helping out with that and snacks. The other thing is we are having the potluck on September 11th, and I'll be putting more information into the weekly newsletter. So put it on your calendars. September 11th, after the water ceremony and the new membership, we'll be having a potluck.
Good morning, Margie from membership. Right after service in the library, I'll be running the Pathway to Membership meeting. I might be a little late because I'm running over to Publix to pick up lunch for us. So thank you also to our new greeters who have volunteered to help out, Michelle Flores and Iris, and I don't see Leanne. I know Leanne stepped up, and I don't have anybody for next week. If anybody has a hankering to be a greeter next week, it's a lot of fun. Let me know. And see anybody who is interested in becoming a member on September 11th. That's when we're having our water ceremony, along with the fabulous potluck. Yay! Come on out over to the meeting, and we'll prepare you for membership. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Miguel Rodriguez, representing SAC, the Social Action Committee. Just to let everyone know that it has been rescheduled for Wednesday, August 31st at 7 p.m. Via Zoom. So contact the SAC chair, that's Mary Ann Fieldman, for the Zoom link if you have not received the link. Thank you.
Thank you. It's nice to be really well informed about all the things that are happening here at our church. For my opening words this morning, I have chosen several short quotations from William Sloane Coffin. William Sloane Coffin became famous back in the 1960s for opposing the Vietnam War whilst he was chaplain at Yale University. He marched alongside the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he was also jailed as a freedom rider. So open your ears and your hearts and listen to his words on social justice. Diversity may be both the hardest thing to live with and the most dangerous thing to be without. Truth is always in danger of being sacrificed on the altars of good taste and social stability. However complicated it may be to implement, there is a need for affirmative action. It is prompted by years of negative action. Without affirmative action, the first steps towards admitting African Americans would never have taken place. Equal opportunity only reflects good intentions. Affirmative action registers results. We now have our opening music this morning. And for our opening music, we have hymn number 129 in the hymn books that are on the seats by you. It is Let Love Continue Long.
Good morning, everybody. I don't know how many of you have noticed at the bottom on the hymn pages, in the bottom corner here, it tells you, the microphone has escaped me. There we go. Okay. It'll tell you who the composer and writer, author, lyricist for each hymn are. It'll also give you sometimes a hymn name, like over across on the other side, it says Love Unknown, and that's the hymn name for this one, meaning that hymn tune, Love Unknown, can get used with other words over and over again. The music itself for this hymn was written by Ireland, who was an English composer who died in 1962. The poem here is written by, I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing, was written by Berkeley Moore. And Berkeley Moore was first a physicist and then became a UU minister. And he was active for many, many years in the Abraham Lincoln UU Church of Springfield, Illinois. So that's where that music comes from, and we shall sing it together today. And I know we just sang it recently, like 3 weeks ago, so you know it. So how about everybody come up, sing together, get some breath. Janet will give us an introduction, and then we'll start. Let love continue long and show to us the way, and if that love be strong, no hurt can give way. And if that love be made but strong, our hurt can never have a say. If love cannot be bound, though common faith prevails, when love does not abound, abound, our common faith will always fail. If we in love unite, debate can cause no strife, for with this love inside disgrace reach our life. For with this bond of human love, disputes can mean a richer life. May love continue long and lead us on our way, and hope that love be strong, no hurt can have us stay. For if that love remain but strong, no hurt can ever have us say. Good job.
Now we come to a time when we light our chalice, and this morning we have Rowan to come and light the chalice for us this morning. His pronouns are he and him, and he's 8 years old. And Rowan is excited that he has a new toy coming tomorrow, right? Okay. And let us say our words for the lighting of the chalice. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And now please join me in our affirmation. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. I want to wish a warm welcome to all who are gathered here this morning, especially those of you who are here for the first time. We encourage you to visit us several times before making up your mind whether you like us or not, and I'm sure you will like us. We also welcome those who are joining via social media this morning. We are glad that you have joined us as well. We have a minister who speaks twice a month, and then on the remaining Sundays, we might have people from academia or from charitable organizations speak to us on issues that relate to one or more of our 7 principles. Please take a brief moment to turn to those around you and welcome them this morning. While we have all welcomed one another here this morning, let us just welcome all those who are visiting with us online via social media. You are a very important part of our gathering today. And now we have our time of joys and concerns. It's time for people to share briefly your personal joys and concerns with your church family. Please remember, though, that we are going out over the airwaves, and so be careful not to disclose anything that you don't want the whole wide world to know about. I invite you to come up to the microphone to my left. This is unusual. When you have shared your concern, if you would like to come and to take a stone and drop it into the water, you're invited to do that as well. You're welcome to.
My name's Heidi. I've lived in South Florida since 1987, and I moved here 3 days ago. And I have 3 grown children in South Florida, so I'm heartbroken. But I know that God guided me here for a reason. Change is hard and different, but I'm just really grateful that I trust in God and followed the path that I know He told me to choose. And I'm really glad that I found a place to come today. Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome. Glad to be with you.
Hi, Janet Levins. About a month or so ago, we got back from Kenya, and I talked about the trip. One thing I didn't say is that we had a privately guided tour, and at the end of it, we had a tip. And, you know, we're still new to this kind of thing, and we didn't know how much. And so my husband's like, well, 20% is usual, but yeah, the 20% of the whole tour is an awful lot of money. So we're like, okay, 10%. So we did the tip, and then we found out afterwards it was like way too much. And our guy wrote back, us, thanks for the huge tip, thank you so much. And we're like, well, I hope he does something good with it. Well, just today, he WhatsApped us, and he's starting a small business with it. And so we're really, really happy.
Hi guys, my name is Zane. I'm new. I'm going to try to say something, but I'm bad at talking, so don't be mad at me, okay? I got to say, my joy is that, you know, coming here and experience, I'm not really good at describing what this place is when I tell people, so I just like to say it's a gay church to grab people's attention. It's not a gay church, I know. It's just to grab their attention so they listen to me and hear me out. And so many people at my school never heard of this or concept of this. And when I tell them, their face lights up and they love the idea. But my only concern is that I only feel confident talking about this place when I see someone with colored hair who I think is gay. But I don't feel confident talking to someone I think might be religious. So, yeah, that's it.
Hi, I'm Chloe Hatfield, and I have a very vague joy, is that things feel really right in my life right now. Things feel really good, and I have no doubts.
Hi, I'm Anastasia. My joy is that my brother got a Parasaurolophus toy.
What was that again?
A Parasaurolophus? I can't pronounce it.
It's called a Parasaurolophus.
You'll have to check during our coffee time afterwards to find out exactly what that is. Okay? A dinosaur. Okay. All right. Terrific. Thank you for sharing. And now we come to our time for all ages. And Judith Stein-Farrell, I vaguely know this lady, is our Director of Religious Education and shares words for all ages to help us understand who we are as members of the UUA.
As members of the UF and who are members of the UUA, yeah. It works really well.
Yes.
Usually Time for All Ages is something relating directly to what our speakers are speaking about, but this week we are inviting Lindsay Stroh up to the mic. She has been leading our class the last couple weeks in creating a song. I'm going to back up a little because I feel like I'm just screaming at you. She's been leading the class in writing a song, and she'd like to share it with all of you, and I think she's planning to teach it to you, so get ready to follow along. Lindsay, if you join us.
Some of the children in the group were a little shy to come forward, but they'll be singing out there with you. I'm going to magically create you all into trees. You are now all trees. So you are singing from the tree's point of view. And we talked about the gifts we get from trees. They clean the air. They give us all sorts of good things. And the kids came up with kinds of things I hadn't thought about, which was lovely, about the different things we get from trees. So I'm going to ask you to clap, and on the fourth clap we'll begin. We are the trees, we have gifts for you. We are the trees, we have gifts for you. We are the trees, we have gifts for you. We are the wonderful trees. I am a tree, I give you wooden shoes. I give you boats, paddles, and canoes. I can give a wooden boardwalk too. We are the wonderful trees. I give you apples, pears, and cherries too. Oranges, limes, and lemons too. Acorns, walnuts, pecans, and cashews. We are the wonderful trees. Sing it out. We are the trees. We have gifts for you. We are the trees. We have gifts for you. We are the trees. We have gifts for you. We are the wonderful trees. Thank you, trees.
So what that is a seventh principle lesson, right? Just you have to turn it into a UU message, right? So how is that a seventh principle lesson? Any guesses? You all have no idea what I'm talking about. Our seventh principle is the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. And you all are a part. And the trees are a part. And it basically is saying that we have to take care of our planet if we need to get the things we need to live. And some of the things come from trees. And some of the things we get from each other. And we have to take care of one another, which is also a seventh principle lesson. And I think that's where our speakers will be speaking to today. So thank you very much. Thank you, Lindsay.
We now come to our time for an interlude and our offering. And we have now the opportunity to show our support for the ministries not only of Triple U, but also of a nonprofit organization in the region. And we reach out to help them out as well. 40% of our offering goes to a different group each quarter. And this month we are supporting HOPE, which is the Orlando Center for Justice for this quarter, is it? Okay. And the baskets are going to be passed around while we listen to some music this morning, and it is going to be Come and Go With Me. Thank you, Stephanie.
The information on the board is wrong. So let me explain some things. Come and Go With Me to That Land is a traditional black spiritual, meaning it was probably first sung mid to late 19th century. It has been recorded by Odetta and Peter, Paul, and Mary, to name a couple, but a whole bunch of other people. Originally, most spirituals were meant to do one of two things. One was to express shared emotion, misery, hope, or to suggest a path out of slavery and a way to get to freedom, sometimes a quite literal way. I mean, down by the river meant get to the river. There's a reason, you know. So in this particular case, it's much more general, but it's also about going to a new place that's safer and warmer and more wonderful for all of us. And I don't really intend to exactly sing a solo because spirituals are meant to be shared. And so I'm going to sing part of it, and then you sing it back to me. And we'll learn this together. I've never sung this, well, yesterday I sang it. And this morning I sang it, but otherwise I don't know it either. Oh, also, there are a lot of tunes with this same set of words that I came across, so I just picked the one that I thought was easiest to sing as a group. Okay, the first part goes, won't you come and go with me to that land, to that land? Come and go with me to that land. Won't you come and go with me to the land where I'm bound, where I'm bound, where I'm bound, where I'm bound? Sing it with me. Won't you come and go with me to the land, where that land? Won't you come and go with me to that land? Won't you come and go with me to the land where I'm bound, where I'm bound, where I'm bound, where I'm bound? There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. Everybody up. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. Singing. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound. Won't you come and go with me to that land, to that land? Won't you come and go with me to that land? Won't you come and go with me to the land where I'm bound, to where I'm bound, where I'm bound, where I'm bound? Ooh, excuse me, I'm losing it. Ooh, good job.
And now our children will be going off to their time of fun and education, and we will sing them out of here.
You think you can do it?
Please join me.
Okay.
We love you and bless you and send you on your way. We love you and bless you today and every day. Thank you. This morning, our presentation, our talk is based on DACA, the Deferred Action for Child Arrivals. July 22nd marked the 10th anniversary for DACA. And DACA is an immigration policy that grants immigrant youth temporary protection from deportation and grants them a work permit. Over the years, this program has brought peace and hope to dream for millions of immigrant youth and their families. However, it is a temporary solution to a much bigger problem. And the chances of it remaining in place have been challenged time and time again. Our speaker this morning is Silvia Ruiz, and Silvia works at the Hope Community Center. And she says that it is an amazing group of people with a common goal to empower the community and equip them with tools to enrich their lives. So I now have the pleasure and the privilege of welcoming and introducing to you all Silvia Ruiz.
Hi, well, I am Silvia Ruiz. I'm actually a community organizer at the Hope Community Center. I've been with Hope since my junior year of high school, and I've been blessed enough to stay as an official staff member. When I was invited to come, well, first, I want to say thank you for having me. I think it's very important when you're telling your story that you feel comfortable in an environment, especially with new people and new faces. And I just want to say thank you, because as soon as I walked in that door, it's been all but love. So I really want to say thank you to you all. But my story starts when I was 4. So when I was 4 years old, my mother and I crossed the southern border to come into Texas to reunite with my father. My dad had previous, come and gone to Mexico. He actually came to the United States for a better work opportunity. And when it was time, he said, "It's time for you all to join me." And the purpose of this was to have a better life, right? For my parents to give me the opportunity to have a good education, and hence a better future. So I don't remember much of what that moment was. I was 4 years old. I can't tell you really much anything from my childhood because that all goes down the drain. And I can only tell you what I have been told from my mother. We crossed the Rio Grande, and we were essentially picked up from family members here, and we were driven to Florida. And that's as much as I can tell you. I wish I could, have a little tab in my brain to tell you exactly what the details are, but you can only hope so much from a 4-year-old. So I started elementary school here in Apopka. I'm a Apopka resident. I've been living in Apopka since as long as I can remember. I started elementary school. I was one of the 2 ESOL students in my classroom. The school at the time was predominantly English speakers, and oftentimes the way OCPS did it back in that day, was that if you were not of English proficiency, you were sent to Zellwood, which was a school for bilingual students. I don't know how I was lucky enough to be one of the 2 in my classroom to be there, but I was. And I remember everything was fine. English, I somehow miraculously picked it up in a year, but I was still in the ESOL program. So where does this immigration story come to its beginnings was when in the 3rd grade, we were learning about geography. And prior to this, I knew I was different because I didn't speak English, but I didn't know what undocumented, documented, what status, what that meant. So in the 3rd grade, we were learning about geography, and my 3rd grade teacher had a picture of a map right in front of us. And she had those little pointer fingers that you would point to on the map, and she would tell us to share anything we would know about these landmarks. And I remember she stopped at the Rio Grande, and me, eagerly, I was like, I crossed that. So I was like, my mom and I, that's how we got here. To me, it was something I could share with my classmates and something interesting. But that resulted in a parent-teacher conference with my teacher and my mom. My poor mom, who did not know English, was terrified. And the teacher, Miss Vickers, I remember, she told my parents, you have to sit down and talk to her. Because as much as we, don't like to believe it, this is not something that people agree with. And she did that in fear of our own safety. So we had a conversation that night, and it was a difficult conversation. As a 3rd grader, my mom was telling me everything, but all I saw was just her bawling, was her crying and telling me, I know you're excited, I know you want to share your story, you want to make friends, but this is not what we talk about. We can't talk about this, because ultimately it could lead to a separation. I could be sent back home, you could be sent back home, we can be placed in, at the time I didn't know, but detention centers, and we hear so many stories about that now, but back then, it was only, my mom is crying, this causes her pain, I'm not gonna talk about this. So from there is when it was like a whole change, right? I didn't raise my hand anymore. I think for me, the more I was in a spotlight, the more the chances were of my family being in that spotlight, of people asking questions. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying because you're young, you want to play in the playground, you want to be free, but somewhere in the back of your head, there's this constant fear of this could be temporarily. Tomorrow's not promised, so you gotta just go day by day. And that's how I pretty much lived my life up until high school. And high school is when I started becoming a little more conscious and a little bit more aware of politics, policies, and why, I couldn't talk about this issue. In high school is also when my parents started talking more about DACA and what DACA was. I didn't know. Before, I was completely oblivious to it, but my junior year of high school is when I started, I guess you can say, embarking on my social justice route. I started becoming more interested in a lot of the issues that were not just affecting me, but my friends, my community, and that's also, by coincidence, when I found hope. And it really opened my knowledge of things. It really opened my experiences and my heart to different topics. So in junior year, I believe it was in summer leading into junior year, I went to the Hope Center, and we were going to apply for my DACA approval and whatnot. I remember walking in with 2 big folders of honor roll certificates, attendance, report card, progress report card, teacher-parent conferences, my confirmation, and my mom she raised me Catholic, so, you had the confirmation, First Communion, you had all of these different types of documents, and in my head, I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is creeping me out, because why do people need to know all of this information? So when we went in, we were greeted by Beth, which is, she's a legal consultant. And she was the one who helped us out, sort all these documents and fill out the application. It's a pretty long application. My mom helped me out for most of the part, and we were going through it step by step, and we had to make sure there was no errors. So everything had to be right, down to the letter. Silvia, some of you might spell it with a Y, and that was one of the issues, was that Beth would spell it with a Y, so we had to go back page by page to correct my name. And for DACA, there's a set date, June 15th, 2007. You must be present in the country as of June 15th, 2007. In order to apply, you have to have some physical evidence that you've been in the country ever since that date. So, for example, if somebody has a family emergency and they have to go back home, but they come after June 15th, they're not eligible. So for me, it was difficult because all of my supporting documents that I was here in this country was everything school related. In June, there's no school. So one of the difficult things, amongst other things, but this was probably the most difficult part, was how do I tell this SCIS representative that I'm legally here in this country, even though I've never been outside of Florida. The furthest I would go out of Apopka would be Mount Dora to visit my family members. So how do I legally prove this? So my mom took to the church, and we spoke with Pastor Giovanni in a church in Mount Dora that we were part of, and he did us a big favor in writing a letter and explaining, Silvia Ruiz Villanueva has been an active member of this church since 2005, which was true. We would go to Sunday service, we would participate. Because of that letter, my DACA was approved. If it wasn't because of that letter, I don't think I would have had, that opportunity. So a couple months go by, and it's December. And by December of 2016, I have already been getting my approval notices. So I already know I have my DACA. However, I don't have my EAD, which is my employment authorization document, my ID. On December, the 22nd of December 2016, I get it in the mail. And I immediately recognized it. This is the envelopes from the postal carrier, and I run to my mom. I didn't want to open it without her. And I go and I get her, and I'm like, you have to call Dad, on WhatsApp, do the little video call. And we're opening it, and as soon as I'm opening this document, I just start crying. Because that meant so much for me and for my family. That meant that at least for a span of 2 years, I was protected from deportation. That meant that I didn't have to live day by day. And it felt like I was almost reclaiming my identity, because I was this really bright person in elementary school. I would love to talk to my teachers. I would love to be part of so many things. And for a long time in middle school and beginnings of high school, that wasn't the case. I tried my best in school, was an honor roll student, but that was as much as it was, right? I wanted so much to participate in clubs, to be part of honor societies, to be part of my class council, my student government association, but it was such a hard thing for me to do, because in my mind, I thought of it as exposure, and I don't want to be seen. So it was almost as, I reclaimed myself. But I just didn't do it for myself, it was more for my family as well. To have that peace that they came to this country for me and for my opportunities. And now we have, something that we can grow on, right? So I opened up that document, and I remember my mom was calling everybody. She was calling my uncles in Mexico, she was calling my uncles in Texas, my aunt in California, and she was like, oh my goodness. And it was just like, in that moment, we were all together. And oftentimes we don't get to experience those things. So really big breakthrough in my life. So with that being said, what happened my junior year? I said, what the heck? I'm like, I am here, I am proud, I don't care what anyone tells me, so I started being a lot more vocal about these issues. I started thinking about, I'm not the only person that goes through this every day. I know countless of my peers, of my friends, of their families, their parents who share the same story. So what I started doing was I said, you know what, I'm not gonna let this stop me. I'm gonna use this as a reinforcer, and I'm gonna apply for my class council. So I was secretary of class council 2 years in a row. I was in all the national honor societies. I ran for homecoming court, and I was on homecoming court. High school, when I initially started, I thought that was gonna be it. I didn't think there was life after high school, because college for undocumented students is so difficult. It's so expensive. It's out of pocket. Scholarships, they're ever rarely there, and if there are, there's so many rules, so many requirements that it's difficult. So I didn't think anything after high school. I genuinely thought that I was going to graduate high school and work in a nursery with my mom. So when I got my DACA, I said, oh my gosh, I can finally do all of these things that I've been wanting to do. And I did. So I ended up graduating high school. I went to my dream school, FIU, in Miami. I was given a full tuition-based scholarship because of my DACA. And I was there for a year and a half, and then COVID hit. Then COVID. So, yeah, I think right now where I'm at in my life, DACA it's been a big part of my identity. Even though I kind of don't like to say that, because I like to believe that I am who I am because of me, not because of what a paper says. But the truth is that it's the foundation that I base myself on. Because on whether or not I'd like to believe it, without it, life is terrifying. Last year, I had to stop school. My father passed away because of COVID. He was on the ventilator for a month, and they never really gave us any hopes. We all kind of knew what the outcome was. So I've been helping my mom a lot. In that sense, I went back to the center, and thankfully I'm a full-time staff member, so I'm able to help my mom in that. But now we're faced with reality, and it's that DACA is constantly being under attack by legislation, by people who think this isn't a legal document or policy. In 2016, I believe the Department of Homeland Security, not 2016, 2017, they ended the program under the Trump administration, and they said no more DACA. Out of that came a lot of lawsuits, people saying no, DACA is legal and it's here to stay. But ever since then, it's been in and out of the courts. I don't know if you all have seen the news that the Biden administration has put out a new rule for DACA. In sense, what they're saying, and we're still waiting to hear what that breakdown is. It's like a 490-something page document that we're waiting to get translated into common English. What we know is that they're hoping to make it a federal policy. So it's not just temporary. It's not every 2 years you have to fill out a renewal form, pay $495, and hope for the best. They're hoping that this could solidify it and not be under attacks every other year, every other month by our legal system. But that's how it's been, and it's always been. It's very frustrating sometimes to know when I know other stories of DACA students or people who couldn't apply to DACA in the first place. Right now, I think there's 600,000 documented students or documented people in the country. Here in Orlando, I believe there's 5,000, and in Florida, 35,000. So this affects a lot of us. A lot of our neighbors, a lot of our friends, colleagues, and sometimes it's very difficult for people to stand up and share their stories. So when I was talking to Reverend Richards, I was telling him, my story is very different in the audience that I speak to. It has a lot of layers, and oftentimes those layers are brought out by the people that I'm surrounded with. So when I speak to you about my story, I also want to have you consider different points of views. We have people that tried to apply for DACA when the time span between when the Department of Homeland Security, they closed it down, they reopened it from December to June or July. We have about 80,000 applications that were put on pause. So these are lives of people who are still in this constant limbo of whether or not I have to live my life day by day. I'm thankful enough I was able to renew this past year, and I can live in peace for 2 more years, or until the Fifth Circuit Court decides. But it's hard. It's hard that your life and your family's life is all dependent on folks who don't even know you. I like to believe that I'm a good person. I like to believe that my family also has really good values and morals, and they've raised me to become a good human being. But it's very difficult to translate that sometimes onto other people and let them know because of fear. And it's understandable. But I just wish the world had, bigger hearts and at least open it up to other people. So in Hope style, after we share our stories, we like to call to action. And I think it's been reflected a lot on this service today, and I really appreciate that. So we're left with this sense of what can we do, right? What can I do? And what I always like to tell people, even though we can't walk up to the White House and be like, it's permanent, it's done, as much as I'd want to. I've tried that before, no, it didn't work. what we can do right now is just be open to one another and to our stories. And what you're doing right now is creating spaces for people to feel welcomed. I think that's the first step. And I think it's so beautiful that you do this. You know, to me, it means a lot. Because I've been in many rooms and many situations where I've heard people not be so nice and say very harming things about people like me. And then the second thing we can do is, you know, what can we do in our communities? We're actually starting an initiative. It's called Community IDs. What these community IDs are is essentially an ID for people that live in Orange County. And what the goal of this is to, you know, I guess people could refer it to herd immunity, right? So if someone who is undocumented, documented, TPS holders, if someone is stopped, they can present this ID as a legal identification. We know sometimes IDs are very difficult for people that are undocumented, trans folks that have their names, the names that they identify as, for elderly folks, for low income, for returning citizens. It's very difficult. There's a lot of policies that come into, you know, getting your ID, the payments that you have to pay, you know, $60, $40, sometimes it's a lot for people that are living on low income. So with that, I do want to leave that. If you want to learn more about this initiative, feel free to talk to me, and I can tell you all about it. But again, I do want to thank you all for just being really good people to me right now, to my friends. Oftentimes we don't get to experience this, and I just really want to say thank you. Yeah.
I'm sure you all, like me, have some questions that you'd like to ask Silvia. I don't know how we're doing time-wise. Anybody have a question? Would you like to come back up here?
Sorry.
So my question to you, Silvia, is does your mother, so your mother obviously came over without papers. Now, by you having DACA, does she get any benefit out of that in terms of her protection from being deportation or not?
So under the initial policy of DACA, no. There's also no pathway to citizenship. So it's not like I can have DACA for 10 years, 20 years, and then after that, I can apply for a green card or residency or anything. This policy is just temporary protection. When it was introduced, it was introduced as temporary protection for 2 years until Congress could act upon it and possibly make it more permanent. But it's been 10 years, and you know, my mom doesn't have any opportunities. You know, there's no pathway to citizenship at all.
Thank you. Thanks very much. One of the great experiences my wife and I had was volunteering in a school in Apopka called Grows. I think it unfortunately had to close 5 or 6 years ago because of funding, but it was mothers who brought their children in order to get them to learn enough language up to speed so that when they started kindergarten, they'd have a chance. I remember one day when the headlines were, DACA has been approved, I think it was during the Obama administration?
2012.
And they were almost cheering in the building. It's finally. And that, of course, that was all doubted later on. So, and the other thing I remember is how wonderful and how, I'll just give you one story. There was a lady who had been a CPA in Venezuela, I think. She's in this country now, and I asked her one day if she ever got back to visit her relatives, and she said, no, I last saw my mother 18 years ago. And I started to say, why? And then I realized she was afraid she couldn't get back in the country, and she was undocumented. So there's a lot of sadness related to this topic.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your presentation. Just beautiful heart. It's such good energy. I just wondered about the experience you had in college and how maybe your voice with your colleagues in college, how did you feel they received that in your peer group?
Yeah. So FIU is in Miami, and predominantly it's a lot of Hispanics. I felt at home. But whenever I would talk and introduce myself, I would try my best to explain, just because awareness is key into an issue. And I'd be like, I'm Silvia, nice to meet you, pronouns she, her, ella, and I'm also documented. And then people would be like, what's documented? So I'd always try to be open about it. I think the overall environment with the people that I was introduced to and I surrounded myself with was very open. A lot of them actually shared similar immigration stories. Some of them were first generation, some of them second generation, whether that be from Cuba, Venezuela, etc. But I will say, I actually worked with the university as a victim empowerment peer. So my job was to educate other people in my university about violence within relationships and how we have counseling and so forth. When I was applying for this position, I had a very difficult time. It was a major headache. I think I had to take out 2 days to really just focus on my immigration documents. Because the university did require me to submit a lot of these documents, which naturally, understandably, but I did notice that their staff was not equipped or did not know how to handle DACA recipients because of the paperwork. They were very, helpful, but, it's just one of those things that you wish didn't have to take 2 days, and it would have been a lot more, easier. But other than that, my teachers, my professors, they're always very open to me and open to my experiences. And I think that's one of the things that highlights the differences between high school and college. So, yes. Thank you.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Anyone?
Sylvia, thank you for being here. Is there a path to citizenship for you?
As of now, no. Right now, we're waiting on the Fifth Circuit judge to determine on whether DACA is legal to stay. The Biden rule only comes effective until October 31st. So we're in this limbo quite again, where there's an opportunity to see what this rule is, and possibly there might be a pathway to citizenship, but we are not sure right now. Or this Fifth Circuit judge says this program is illegal, and essentially it comes to an end. So as of now, there's not a pathway. There has never been a pathway. It's just been a temporary 2 years that you're here, you can work, but you have to renew again. Thank you.
I'm sure everybody has more questions that you'd like to ask Silvia. And she will be around for a little while afterwards, so while you're having your coffee, please feel free to speak with her. Let us now extinguish our chalice as we say the words, "We extinguish this flame, not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again." And we have our closing music now. Again, Stephanie's going to lead us in "Our World is One World." It's hymn number 134 in the hymn books.
Say it again. Taylor was born in Surrey, England in 1930 and was sent out of the city, the big cities during the war, the Second World War. She started her life as an Anglican, became a Congregationalist, and then she was a Quaker. She's who wrote the words to our song. And there's a collection of her poems on Amazon, just so you know. So she's someone who's well respected as a poet. I read a lot about her this morning. Interestingly, be careful if you do a search. There's also a Cecil Taylor, born in the same year, who's a jazz musician, who also was kind of important musically. So anyhow, that's where we stand. This is Our World is One Land, One World.
Please join us.
What touches one affects us all. The seas that wash are round about, the clouds that cover us, the rains that fall. 'Tis one world, the thoughts we think affect us all. The way we build our attitudes with love or hate we pick, a bridge or wall. Our world is one world, its ways of wealth affect us all. The way we spend, the way we share, the rich or poor, who stand or fall. Our world is one world. Just take a ship that bears us all, where fear and greed make many holes, but where our hearts can hear a different call.
And my closing words this morning once again come from William Sloane Coffin. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. He goes on to say, let me suggest that for over 200 years, the great social struggles of America have aimed to make the Constitution more consonant with the Declaration of Independence. He says, I believe one significant cure for what presently ails us lies in extending yet further our democracy. We need more women's rights, not less, until they are genuinely equal to men's rights. We need more gay rights, more rights for immigrants, for children, for the more than 1 million of our citizens in jail. We need to recognize that affirmative action is good for all of us. And given the vast wealth and power that have accumulated in the hands of a small and self-serving corporate elite, which pays itself proportionately more and pays workers proportionately less than in any other industrialized democracy, we need to democratize the market economy of America. I can still remember my high school days. It was in 1939, he says. Franklin Roosevelt said, my fellow Americans, progress is not measured by how much we add to the abundance of those who already have had a great deal, but rather by how much we do for those who have too little. The primary problems of the planet arise not from the poor, for whom education is the answer. They rise from the well-educated, for whom self-interest is the problem. My friends, our time of gathering and worship has ended. Now our service begins. Go and serve.